You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey all, welcome to another Friday edition of Cards to the Moon. I'm Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram, and with me is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John of Trade You at Recess. So off the top, I wanted to quickly touch upon the change in leadership at HGA, the grading company that ran into some issues, especially with their current backlog. And to tell you the truth, I don't know the whole story, partially because I'm not a huge fan of HGA to begin with. But John, you actually brought this news to my attention. Any initial thoughts from you about HGA essentially having its founder, Tyler Hitt, I believe is his name,
right,
step down and taken over by Armstrong International, which is a private 5th generation family owned business. And they apparently have more experience running companies. So yeah, what do you think?
Right. Well, based on some of the early reactions, people who are fans of HGA, I guess it seems like it's a bit of a sad day because a lot of people were actually fans of Tyler, of his customer service and the way he handled a lot of his customers. So it appears, and again, none of us really know what really happened in the back end, but it kind of appears like he might have been pushed out. And maybe strong-armed by this bigger company, but who knows? From a personal standpoint, it sounds really, really bad to say, but I don't know. It's big news clearly for this company, but for me, I don't know. I could really care less because, like you said, never. I was early on when HGA first came out and was making some noise. I thought, you know what? I like their slabs. It kind of looks cool. But after a lot of the hoopla, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna mess with HGA. I'm not gonna touch them. So who knows what happens here? This new company seems like their big thing is like decarbonization, and apparently they're like really into cards or passionate about cards. I'm not sure how. So not exactly how it's gonna work, and if they have a strong enough presence or anything to be able to rebrand HGA or build up the HGA brand that's been so hammered down and just so destroyed. And like, I don't know. I don't even know how you would lift up that brand at this point. So it'd be interesting to see what exactly happens here. We'll see. But it's,
I think there was a lot of people that were pretty upset, I guess, overall, because their like 60-day submissions were taking like ridiculous amounts of time, right? So I think it might be hopeful that, something, better operational could happen with this new ownership. But I think you're right, John, where, it was kind of like, okay, get him out of there and restructure because how it was going on wasn't really working.
Right.
But yeah, I don't have much to say on that just because, yeah, I mean, I don't own any HGA slabs. I don't want to, go into, just trashing HGA at all because, they seem to have, a big fan base too, right? So I know a lot of people are looking forward to change, I guess, with them because they just want their slabs for the most part, right? And I think that's key is getting the slabs moving for fellow collectors so we could all enjoy the hobby.
Yep. Unfortunately, I don't have much to say either. Like I said off the top, I'm not a really big fan of HGA in the look, so I don't know what the change in ownership is. It just like going to be operational, in terms of finding efficiencies there, or are they going to do an overhaul completely and change the look of the slabs?
I would think they would have to shake things up internally, operationally, just because the issue is getting the slabs out in a reasonable amount of time, because you need to get the cards pumping out. So I think this will allow, I guess, them, because they seem Armstrong International I guess it's AI. That's the inside joke, right? It's their
I didn't
abbreviation's AI, and they,
I didn't even
you
think
know,
about
but
that.
yeah, but I believe they're, successful in their industries and in running businesses and mainstreaming, logistics is one of their strengths. So, I'm hoping for the, positivity of the hobby, that it's for the better.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't want to sit here and, criticize HGA because, they've done their part with, whatever they wanted to do. And they obviously have, a fan base, and who's not to say that, they're providing value to them. Right. So,
For sure.
that's yeah. Other than that, I'm pretty neutral on the fact. I don't know
Mhm.
much about it, but like I said, it wasn't great to begin with. I think so. I think it could be a step in the right direction. Hopefully,
Sure.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
The concern right now, though, for HDA, and I'm sure it's on their docket, is whatever fans they had left that are now disgruntled because their cards have been taking 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. It could be a point where they're just like, I just want the cards back. Like
Right.
after this, I don't know if I'm ever gonna use them again. So man, this company coming in, they have some work to do. That's the bottom line. It
Yeah.
may not be just organizational restructuring. This could be something way bigger. And I don't know. I'm very skeptical of their ability to recover it. So I'm actually now fascinated, because I'm so skeptical, if they can actually achieve a rebound.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Hyung on this. Like, I hope they turn it around. Like, a strong grading companies are good for the hobby, I think.
Right.
And,
Right.
it's too bad. Like, they, when we first started even airing this podcast, HEA seemed to be, trending in the right direction, but they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. So
Right.
hopefully they can recover with a change at the top, and then we'll see. All right. So for the rest of this show, I wanted to take time to answer one question submitted to us by Dave Schwartz. Thank you for being a listener to the podcast. And appropriately for this episode, it's a question about grading. And I think it's one that a lot of newer collectors are asking as well. So I'll just read his email to us, and then we'll try to answer it the best we can. He says, "My PC includes raw cards only. It's an aesthetic personal preference. To maximize my returns, I grade a card before I sell it, but as a newish collector, I'm beginning to realize that not only are there different grading companies, but that those companies all have specialties. It seems that, based on reputation, Beckett might be best for subgrades and first Bowman Chromes, PSA for high-end cards, SGC for low and mid-range cards, or when you're in a hurry, forensic, etc. It's pretty confusing. I've heard you talk before about grading companies, but can you shed some light on what each company is best at, what their specialties are? In the long run, does it really matter at this point who I get to grade my cards?" So first, what do you think of his assessment of the different specialties that each grading card company brings to the table?
I think for the most part, he hit it on the nail. I guess the way the hobbyist looks at it, I think it's changing a little bit with BGS. Obviously, just having no access to BGS. So the question becomes, 2020, 2021, 2022, these Bowman Chromes are being graded by SGC and FCG, and the lack of grading by Beckett in the last couple of years might affect or might change that kind of game moving forward. But I know before, when Beckett was popular, it was the go-to for like first Chrome, for instance, right? And it held its value for the most part compared to a PSA. But I feel like they've dropped the ball a bit as well. And I think in terms of his assessment, it's pretty spot on. Your ROI is going to be your PSA slab. You got to calculate it, whether to see if it's worth it or not, and see, if you could grade it yourself, kind of like, I guess, within your own lens, you could get an idea of kind of like the value it might get at a PSA 9 versus a PSA 10, right? So
Right.
assessing the value first and understanding, it's expensive to grade with PSA. You got to think about upcharges, because upcharges will, take you into a different category. So you might be better off kind of like submitting at a higher express instead of a regular, because your value of the card, if it gets graded a 10, it might bump up to that value graded fee anyways, right? So stuff like that with PSA is to be mindful. I feel like SGC is a great alternative right now, just in terms of the mixture of turnaround time and price point and resale value. Right now, you can't go wrong with SGC. It's very credible from the old school heads and vintage. They're well known in the grading industry. And they're pumping out cards at a reasonable rate, and I know a lot of the slabs are growing with SGC with a lot of people. So I think they grade very fair, and from a price point, I think you can't get better value than that. And again, FCG is a great alternative to get cheaper subgrades and your cards back within a week, as quick as a week. Obviously as you scale up, that's pretty much not sustainable. If it is, then we need to take a page out of their book as well for everything, right? Or at least PSA could use some advice at that point. But overall, I think if you're looking at it from a ROI perspective, which most people do, I think you're going to have to calculate on an individual basis. But I think it's personally awesome that that you have your PC ungraded. I think that's the way it should be, right? Just in one touches, and just enjoy the card and forget about the grade, right? So
that's true. That's true too. Yeah, no, I like that take. Do you have a number, like a dollar amount in your head when you think about submitting to PSA? Because if you do Express, that's like what, 150, 200 right now?
Yeah, exactly. I'm the PSA 9 value has to be over 1,000 for me personally. Okay. Just because
high end.
Yeah, and I have to know what I'm getting into as well. Like if I don't have a chance at a PSA 10, I probably won't send it to PSA, to be honest, because I believe, if it falls below a PSA 10, but you get a PSA 9, it's going to be a 9.5 at SGC most likely, right? Or it has a chance to be a gem mint at BGS, right? So, I mean...
Got it.
Yeah.
How about you, Johnny?
Yeah, you know what? The question that was asked, I would probably reframe the question. It's not so much that each company has a specialty, because it really has to do with the fact that, number one, they're all credible graders. I think everybody trusts, for the most part, they all individually have some criticism in their grading.
Sure. But
for the most part, they're all very credible graders. So nobody really has an issue there, and big issues there. It really, especially over the past 2 years, it just really comes down to ROI, where you're going to send it, especially when the prices were pretty similar, not in the current landscape where you can't send anything to BGS unless it's $300 Express or whatever their pricing is. Same with PSA. But before this all happened, it was basically, you're going to go, if you want ROI, you're going to go PSA. And if you're pretty good at grading the card yourself, like kind of, pre-grading it yourself before you send it in, and you've done it before and you have some experience of what you feel is a 10. If you feel it's slightly off, like I think it's a 10, but it might be slightly off, those are the types of candidates normally you would go BGS, because I mean, the pricing has changed quite a bit these days, but in the past, it was PSA 10 is obviously the big king in terms of value. BGS 9.5 being not too far behind, and then a PSA 9, for example, or an SGC 10 being even lower than that. So if you couldn't get the PSA 10, you're going to try to salvage the grade by going to BGS to try to get the 9.5. Right. And then if you just think it's a 9 and it's not going to get a 9.5 at all, then again, at that point you would probably go PSA as well. But it really came down to ROI. Now the landscape has changed a lot. You can't go to BGS as easily unless it's a monster card. And now SGC has come into the picture. They're grading quick. They're grading cheap, and their values on the market, the brand value is starting to go up. So, maybe the SGC 10 is still not as strong value wise, you know, in some big cards versus like a true gen BGS or a PSA 10. But you're getting that flexibility. You're getting your card back within 20 business days, 25 business days. And that gives you the opportunity. You know, you got a card show next month, boom, you can take the card. Or
Sure,
you need to free up some money. A lot of people learned if you're looking at all these people getting PSA subs from a year ago back, look at what's coming back. They're getting, you know, Kyle Lewis's, they're getting Gavin Lux. We joke about this all the time. But, you know, back when they sent it in, Kyle Lewis bases PSA 10s were going for like $90 US, $100 US. It made sense to get it back quick and sell it, but you got it back 12 months later when it's worth less than the cost of grading. So this is the danger of putting your money into a grading company that is not going to turn it around within 30 days, right? That flexibility. And you just, with this day and age in the market, anything can happen. So I think these are all the factors you have to take into account. I think it's not so much that they each have specialties. It's really about your ROI and your strategy and what you're going to try to do with that money, right? Now, again, there's a PC component to this, and that's just purely, I'm going to pick the one that looks the best for me and my PC card. I like the tuxedo look. I like the clean PSA slab, or I like the thick kind of glass BGS premium feel. That's purely PC. I get that as well, but
right.
For the most part, it's been mainly about the ROI, and that's how people kind of take it, right?
I think that's the question he's asking. He said, to maximize my returns, I grade a card before I sell it. So he is looking at ROI. And I hear you, but the turnaround time is the big thing now, right? Like, for sure. I said it before in another episode. I just got my Tyler Hero sub back, green Prism PSA 10, which I sold for like $80, but it was a year later. But I saw I did a group submission. I saw a lot of Bulls PSA 9s and 10s there, right? That's hurt. So it's like, yeah, you're not going to get anything there. Zero ROI for Bull cards right now. But John, I remember you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you look on eBay, you still don't see like those high end cards or as much of them for SGC, right?
Right. No, it's not that you don't, actually, yeah, that's true. You know, if your card was like an absolute monster,
you're sending it to PSA.
Yeah, right? I mean, you're probably sending it into PSA, and if you think it's a little bit off, probably sending it into BGS. Or if you think it's a for sure PSA 10 or better, you're gonna go BGS because you're gonna want to try to get that BGS 10 or that black label, right? Yeah. I don't think many people yet are there yet with SGC. They're not sending in because they think they can get the gold. SGC is not there yet. I think they're still sort of like a value brand and like quick turnaround and sort of like this small profit. But the big monsters, yeah, it's still with the two premium big boys, and it shows, right? Like, for me, I talked about branding, like, you know, their BGS's brand value, their brand in general might have taken a bit of a hit, but their brand value is still really strong. Like the brand perception. The brand value of their slabs on the market, right? Because you're mainly seeing big boy cards in BGS slabs. When you see record-breaking sales, Tom Brady, contenders, they're all in BGS slabs, right? So that branding is still present amongst big boys. So BGS is lucky in that sense, man. They're taking a pounding in terms of operations, but my goodness, they have such a big opportunity because they're still keeping alive in the hobby without doing anything. They're just kind of like falling ass backwards into keeping their brand alive, right? So I think they got to really get moving here.
Didn't BGS or Beckett just open up their regular service, right? So hopefully they can ramp up their operational speed,
right?
Because like, you know, I'm still a big fan of BGS, especially because I'm a baseball card collector, especially because I'm a Bowman Chrome collector. And, you know, the subgrades, like, you know, I think I can say safely, like, for people that like collecting Bowman Chrome first autos, there's a lot of, like, they just go to BGS. They just want the subgrades and the, you know, the 10 auto, just that look. Yeah. So, you know, even in the local card shows, we'll talk about this later, but there's a lot of BGS slabs still. You know, and they're holding their own value, right? Maybe not as much as PSA, but yeah, BGS is still, like you said, is still relevant. But I agree with you about SGC too. Like, it is, it's a play, to get your cards super quickly and to have the value be there. Like it's not like HGA where you could get it quickly maybe. Oh, actually you can't get it quickly, but before you could, before they kind of ran into that backlog. But even then, the value of the card wasn't really there. You know what I mean? You're getting a discount because it's in an HGA slab. But I see more SGC slabs, creeping up in value compared to its BGS and even its PSA equivalent.
I'm telling you right now, it's psychological. Like we see the SGC 9.5 with 10 autos, and comparing that to a PSA 9, it's an actually exact same grade. Really, it's a parallel grade. But I will guarantee if we do eBay comps, 9.5 SGCs will outsell a PSA 9 in most cases, especially on like the Bowman Chrome. Like I'll take a Bobby Witt auto, like a PSA 9, right? They get hit on pretty hard in terms of price with just a PSA 9 non-auto grade, right? And then up comes a SGC 9.5, 10, and it outsells that PSA 9. But I guarantee you're gonna be, in it way more in terms of the cost, on that PSA 9. And that's important too. I think SGC did it right in terms of their structuring grade, where there's a 9.5, which is not perfect. It's not gem mint. And your 10 is your gem mint, and then you have your gold label. Whereas, BGS 9.5s are considered gem mints, right? So psychologically, I think they really get it doesn't work in the favor for like Beckett and other slabs, whereas I think SGC gets that advantage,
Yeah, totally agree.
Especially at that price point. And I agree in terms of the value. It's like 3,000 and under, I'd say, is a good call for SGC. You don't see many slabs in modern cards go up above kind of like that $2,000-$3,000 mark, right? So that's probably going to be your price point in terms of a 10-10. And then otherwise you're probably gonna the card justifies a PSA chance or a BGS chance at least, right?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah. Now it'll be interesting once PSA and BGS, if and when they go back to kind of like a full on regular service in the $30 to $50 per card range. It'll be interesting how the landscape will look then, because I think
for sure
SGC is going to be in for some serious competition at that point.
Yeah, I was going to just say that. Yeah, like if you ask us this question 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now, we might have completely different answers.
Totally, I know.
Right. So, Dave, I hope that answered your question. We appreciate all the questions that we get from either on Instagram or on email. And if you do have a question of your own about anything in the hobby, you can reach out to us on Instagram and DM us at either at Cards to the Moon or at 5cardguys, or email us at hello@5cardguys.com. We hope you enjoyed this Friday episode. If you did, we appreciate you giving us 5 stars or a good review on wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll see you guys Tuesday for a regular weekly episode. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.